Okay, hello and welcome, Bear Independent. Ontario Rat 3 coming out of the sheath to open up one of these. This would be a Heineken adult beverage. What does that have to do with anything? Nothing. Other than I was told once or twice that it's a good idea to stay hydrated, so we'll stay hydrated. I got a question. I've actually gotten this question a lot lately, which is why we're going to answer it. The question being, should you have kids with SHTF right around the corner? I find this an incredible question. Number one, that anybody would want my opinion on the subject. And number two, I haven't gotten this question until recently. And apparently there's a bunch of younger people watching the channel. So welcome. Should you have kids with SHTF WROL, the end of the world, right around the corner? I'm going to give that an unequivocal yes. That might not be the answer that most people would think that I would tender, but here's why. Number one, there are no guarantees that the balloon goes up sometime in the near future. I was just talking with a brother about this today. I don't see a way that this thing that we call a society is self-sustaining for, I said in a video 5 to 12 years, but I think that it's entirely possible that the wheels could come off of it tomorrow, let alone 5 to 12 years from now. I also think that we as preparedness-minded individuals do a very poor job sometimes of stopping and enjoying life. It's a macro-micro thing. And I was just talking to a client about this earlier today. You need to, you should prepare for the world to end. But it's a basic thesis of this channel that a life should be worth living. What are we preserving for the future? A life should be worth living. And for me, a big part of that has been children. So the dichotomy is you're going to live until you're 120 years old and you're going to get hit by a bus tomorrow. Macro, micro. In the little picture, you have no time. Bust your ass. Get it done. Make it happen. Go, go, go. I can't believe the conservative Christian guy said a bad word. I do that occasionally. However, I digress. Yeah. In the micro, get after it. Get some. In the big picture, you get all the time in the world. And you can switch those too, depending on what your viewpoint is or what your situation is right now. But it is absolutely a dichotomy. It's an either or. And no, that word existed before Jocko Willink had a podcast or a book. I just like it as well. Dichotomy being the operative word here. We should go out of our way to take the time to enjoy life. All of that notwithstanding the fact that it's entirely possible, I don't know about probable, but it is possible that I die of 120-year-old old age, bouncing my great-grandchildren on my knee, and the world hasn't ended yet. And if that's the case, wouldn't it have been nice to have a family? Next, I was not the man I am now, nor was I operating at my full capacity or potential until I had a wife and kids. I was under the impression that I should never have these things. I had pretty much sworn off women, and I figured that bachelorhood sounded like a good idea. Let's hydrate. But by the grace of the Most High, He saw fit to smash the trajectory of my life into that of my wife's life. And here we are 8+ years later with the added benefit of I got 2 kids in the deal when we met. And they are phenomenal children. And now we have a 3rd child, blood of my blood. The 2 older, FYI, are mine. They are my kids, and we love each other dearly. And now we have a 3rd. They have a younger sibling. And What I thought was real life was a pale comparison to what I experience now. Surrounded by people I love and who love me back for some odd reason. And the trials and tribulations and joys and heartaches and accomplishments and defeats and everything that comes along with having that family wouldn't be possible if I didn't have children. The depth of understanding of humanity, I believe, increases greatly when you have children. Now, I know some people can't have kids. I will tell you unequivocally that I know people who couldn't have kids, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, but I'm saying it does happen. They couldn't have kids that hand that over to the Most High and start, doing their best to keep the commandments, and now all of a sudden they're fertile. So I think that's one of the reasons why the Most High tells us not to worship other gods, is a lot of those gods are gods of fertility, and he makes it clear in the Old Testament that fertility is his bailiwick. He does that. He's opened a lot of wombs. So all that being said, man, I love my kids, and I couldn't imagine life without them, and I can't. By having children, I have leveled up, evolved from who I was to who I am now by having kids. And it also, as a brother said to me earlier today, it really helps understand the relationship between the Creator and us. I mean, there's a reason we refer to him as the Father, because it's a very father-like relationship. And I think it aids in the understanding of how our relationship with him should look and how it should function and what we should do and what roles he should fulfill for us. And it's just an excellent framework with which to view the world, fatherhood or motherhood. My wife is an excellent mother. She just gets after it. And I mean, there's days, especially with a toddler in the house, she wants to throw up her arms and scream or punch a hole through the wall, and I get it. In fact, she just sent me out here earlier. She said, "You need to go out to the barn and do your thing because you're about to lose it." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. Thank you. I love you." So it's not that those moments don't exist. They absolutely exist. But they're beautiful. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, is there struggle and strife and heartache in this world? Is this the type of world that we should be raising children in? From a biblical end time standpoint, no. From a preparedness standpoint, probably not. Let's look at the historicity of humanity, right? Regardless of the timeline you take, scientific or biblical, we are the most fortunate 1% of humanity that has ever existed. I'm talking at a sideways iPhone right now, being warmed by a very well manufactured Carhartt sweatshirt that's, relatively affordable. In fact, this one was given to me, lit up by electrical light, talking into a microphone which is hooked up to a sideways iPhone while drinking an ice cold beer. It's just not that bad. We are not in a coal mine 100 years ago or on the battlefields of Scotland 800 years ago, right? Hell, we didn't just step off the ships onto North America a few hundred years ago. The progression that mankind has taken, even in the last century, is astounding. We have more available to us now than we have ever had. Ever had. Historically speaking, we have it easy. So it's really a numbers game. How long do things stay easy? How long are things I almost said thong, that's funny. How long are things going to remain this way? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody really knows. And then it's also important to understand that the world ending, WROL, the end of the world as we know it, isn't necessarily biblical end times. It isn't necessarily economic collapse or martial law or civil war or invasion on our southern border. It could just be a slow shift into a new normal. That's in large part the story of humanity. We shift into whatever the new normal is. People are overwhelmingly adaptable. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. So, understanding all of that, if you're looking for SHTF to be an excuse as to why not to have children, you don't need my opinion. And if you need my opinion to validate that you should have children going into SHTF, you probably need professional help. But I say do it. You only get this one life to live. And it's just wonderful to have your kids wrap their arms around you. To see your wife holding a child that she's just birthed with tears running down her cheeks. Me and my son, one of my fondest memories is we had pool noodles. And we were fighting in the driveway with pool noodles, playing swords, and we did this for hours. And then I taught him how to dig a hole with a shovel. And he dug a hole that he could stand in when he was like 3 foot tall. Right? And just my oldest daughter and just how smart and switched on she is. And it's a completion to what manhood looks like. We are to steward, provide, and protect. What are you going to steward? What are you going to provide for? Who are you going to protect? It is not good that man would be alone. I will make him a helpmeet, the book of Genesis. The first commandment, be fruitful and multiply. There are multiple commands in the Old Testament that says, do this for all of your generations. Now, there's also prophecy that the generation that saw the reestablishment of Israel will be the last generation on earth. Well, I guess that depends on whether or not you think the Israeli state is Israel or are the descendants of the children of Jacob Israel. Whole nother story for a whole nother time. But it depends on where you land on that if you're looking for biblical proof as to whether or not you should have children. The first thing the Father says is be fruitful and multiply on the subject of children. Do this for all your generations. All of our generations have not passed away, and I pray that they don't anytime soon. I really do. I want my kids to inherit a world that is better now than it was when I came into it. That doesn't mean necessarily technologically advanced, more technologically advanced, or more fiat currency, or more cheap stocks, or more plastic, but better. Stronger morals and ethics. Deeper, more abiding relationships with the Creator. Strong community, friendship, honesty, integrity, accountability, valor. The important things, the things that matter. And I think it's entirely possible that what we call SHTF might just be the thing that takes us from this base materialism turns it on its head and points us back in the direction we need to go, back towards things that matter, back towards real relationships with people, back towards real relationships with the Most High. And it'd be a shame if that is the catalyst for that radical change, to rob our children of it. So should you have kids with SHTF right around the corner? Yeah, you should. It's just one bear's opinion. Shalom.